Our second story today is titled Mother-in-Law Still Doesn't Listen. And this is the one about the mother-in-law kissing the baby on the lips repeatedly. She starts with, again, back to the kissing on the lips rant. I had a conversation with mother-in-law months ago about kissing my baby on the lips and started a discussion on here asking for advice, opinions, etc. I didn't find the original thread, but that's fine because we get to have this one instead. I truly believe she's trying to challenge me. It freaks me out why she can't just listen or respect my decision, even if it's not what she would do. The very first time we met up after the conversation, she made a point of asking, "Oh, can I kiss her?" Although I said yes, just not on the lips. I felt like she was making a point of being sarcastic. Seeing as I never said she's not allowed, I just kindly said from now on, please refrain from kissing her on the lips. Anyway, she kissed my baby on the head, and that was that. Since then, I've seen her kiss her many times on the lips. It hasn't always been the best place to pull her up on it, but I feel regretful I haven't stood my ground sooner. She even makes a point of going for her lips and puckering up her lips to encourage it. She even told my sister-in-law, kiss her. She wants you to kiss her on the lips. This in front of me, probably taking the mick out of me as they both know how I feel about it. I did say no, she doesn't kiss on the lips. And I kid you not, she got onto her knees and kissed her 3 times on the lips. So as we walked to the door, I confronted her and she said, "No, I kiss her on the cheek." As I turned around to say, "Well, I've seen you do it many times now," I caught her pulling faces to my little one. She deliberately tried to make a fool of me. And when I texted her afterwards to remind her, her response was, "Thanks for the reminder. I feel like I did kiss her on the cheek." She is such hard work. And so, OP, this is one of those perfect examples where if you give someone an inch, they take a mile. I personally find it a little bit weird even when parents kiss their kids on the lips. This is not something that's culturally appropriate or acceptable in my background, not something that I saw pretty much for my entire life. I remember the very, very, very first time I saw it was when I was about 11, 12 years old, and one of my classmates was dropped off by his mum, and then his mum kissed him on the lips goodbye at school. And I remember even back then finding that just a little bit strange. Never mind grandparents or any other extended family, which would make me feel even more awkward. So I get where OP is coming from. I wouldn't be very comfortable with this. I wouldn't like seeing it, and I would definitely want her to stop doing it. What I think OP is getting wrong here is that you are way too passive. This is not one of those statements that you need to have multiple conversations with your mother-in-law about. This part where she's done it multiple times in front of you and you haven't said anything about it, and now you're regretting that. That is 100% the reason why she's continuing to do it, because she has no reason to take you seriously. The part that makes me really angry, I think this is what really grinds my gears, is where I would go a bit insane, is when she says, "I tried to talk to her about it, and then as I turned around, I noticed that she was pulling faces at my little one." And I know that there's a certain amount of debate here. Like you could argue that she was just playing with the kid. Fine, fair enough, because babies like it when you pull faces at them. But if she is pulling faces, kind of along the lines of, "Look how ridiculous your mum is being," I would find that so completely disrespectful and out of line. And I don't think that this is the type of interaction between mother and mother-in-law that should be happening in front of a baby. So that's not cool. Ultimately, the answer is you need to grow a little bit of balls and to really step in. I don't know why your husband is in this scenario. I don't know why he's not involved. But if I felt that my mother-in-law was ignoring something that I asked her to do multiple times, then I would have involved my husband, and I'm pretty sure he would have stepped in. So it's one of those situations where I don't know what you've tried to do to make her stop. It doesn't sound like you've tried to do very much. I also don't think that trying to text her afterwards is sufficient, because no one takes texts that seriously. You need to actually sit down and talk to her about it not being okay and not being acceptable. And if she doesn't stop doing it, there will be some kind of consequence in terms of how much time you're spending with her. That's how I would deal with this situation. Good news is that's actually pretty much most of the internet as well. The first comment says, she doesn't listen because you don't call her out in the moment or enforce consequences. It's always the right time to call someone out if they are crossing a previously stated boundary. Stop giving her access to your child. Now, again, I don't think you need to be, go completely extreme, but definitely there's a huge difference in terms of communication styles and how firm you are and how clear it comes across that you're not kidding. This is actually this is not something that you're going to let fly. And I think if you have this history where people are not taking you seriously, then you do need to make it clear that there will be some kind of consequence. Now, one person replies to this one saying she needs consequences for being disrespectful too. I think a timeout is well overdue. I think a squirt bottle may even be in order. And haha, I would argue that that's but it's funny, but a pretty childish way to imagine dealing with the situation. One of those statements that you make on the internet because you're like, aha, wouldn't that be amazing? But it's not actually helpful as a suggestion. This one comment as well, I want to read out. She says, she does what you allow, embarrass her in front of everyone, stop letting her see your child, she's being outright disrespectful to your face. I think this embarrass her in front of everyone comment is honestly a little bit over the top as well. I don't think it's a huge deal to just sit down and talk to her about it. And again, if she's not taking it seriously, involve your husband in it. And then if she's still not taking it seriously, then you can take further action, but there's no reason to go for public humiliation. What does upset me a little bit about these types of threads, there will always be at least one person who kind of draws some kind of parallel or connection to sexual assault, or at least insinuates it. And that's this last comment here. First, long no contact, like add a week or a month for every kiss on the lips, which I think is a ridiculous way to interact with kids. And then she says, by the way, the thought of a grown adult kissing a child on the lips makes me throw up in my mouth. I would definitely not want my child to think that kissing on the lips is normal. I would not allow kisses ever again anywhere, not even on the head. Also, no alone time ever. I would, by the way, have no problem embarrassing her. I once saw my husband's aunt kiss her 13-year-old child on the lips. He didn't want it. She pushed him to the walls and kissed him on the lips in front of everyone. I almost vomited. It was so disgusting. Don't let it come that far. And I 100% agree with this person. That does sound like a pretty awful scenario, and especially with the 13-year-old. The 13-year-old is more than old enough to be able to say, hey, what the hell? And this kid clearly was like, hey, what the hell? I'm not into this. So that's pretty horrific. I'm really sad to read about situations like this. But I think that the comparison to sexual assault is always just used a little bit too lightly. And maybe that's something that we should all be a bit more careful about and not make that comparison without it necessarily being part of what's going on here. So yes, do not let your mother-in-law kiss your baby on the lips. Unless you want to, I guess, which I don't think anyone does.